Okay, now we're here to stitch. I have my, I'm going to be stitching with the bottom of the bag facing up, and so the body of the bag is going to be facing down on the machine. Got my needle, my stitch length at 2.5, my needle on the far left, and we're going to start right in the middle because I really want this to go as well as possible for you all. Okay, so aiming for a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I've got some kind of something. There we go. Okay, dropping my needle. Quick back stitch. All right, and just take this as slowly as you need to. The corners are going to be scary, but after you finish them, it'll be one more thing that you've learned how to do. So, and we just did corners a little bit. So let's just take it as it comes. I don't want to be in your way too much. A little closer view. Hopefully it's not a view of me failing, because I kind of have a feeling that that's what it's going to be. Alright, and just keep checking and make sure your raw edges are lining up. That is how we're going to know that the curve is going right. And if you remember, we talked about stitch length. One of the times you do a shorter stitch length is if you're going around a tricky part. So I have just decreased my stitch length to 1.6, 1.5, and I'm going to take it really easy here. We get to my next needle or pin. I always call them needles. Take it out. Okay. Do you guys hate watching me stitch? Is that annoying or is it helpful? Okay. We're taking this curve like a champ. And just keep stopping, keep adjusting your bag. I just flipped my bag over. I'm going to keep taking that curve. I know I'm going to need to readjust again in a second. I can go back up to 2.5 now because I'm aiming for the straightaway. And you see those notches going through are safely within the seam allowance. Check that out. No problem. That did not affect. That's never going to show. And now we're on an easy part, which makes everybody feel merry. Make sure raw edges are still. Ooh, I just hit a pin. That's not supposed to happen. Okay, I'm going to take my next pin out. And our next curve, but we've already done one and we felt good about it. So decrease your stitch length if you need to. Kind of give your bag another flip if you need to. And just pull. What we don't want is to end up with a ton of fabric at the end. On one layer and not the other. We want all of this to line up evenly. Okay. So I'm hoping that is what's happening right now. But we can always check it at our pin points. Right now, even though my fabric is going over a little bit, I'm okay with that because it's more important to me that this pinpoint is gonna be even from that point on because I do not want to end up with a ton of fabric on one end. So just take the curve as graciously as you can. Let's increase our stitch length back up to 2.5. Flop the bag again. I'm gonna take that pin out so I don't damage anything. There we go. And now this time I'm actually stitching across the bottom of the pocket as well. Let me get that other pin out. We're almost home free. Okay, and a good back stitch. And now I want you guys to boldly go and do the bulky canvas one. Then we're gonna try and get our iron inside of here and press these seams as cleanly as we can. And then I'll catch back up with you then. And before I forget to tell you, be sure and clip or notch the curves here before we try and turn it right side out. So I've just clipped on the curve on both sides. And then I think the best way to press it, might sound crazy, almost hold it up like it's a bag and stick your iron down in there on the ironing board and wiggle it around, because you're going to be able to get at those corners and then kind of get this bottom part flat really nicely. And if you're feeling brave, you could pull off a top stitch on this. So if you're feeling awesome, try it, and everyone will marvel at your top stitching skills. So okay, I'm going to go ahead and top stitch the bottom of my bag, of this part of my bag, and then I'm going to attach the bottom to the heavy canvas one. So let's do that, top stitch the bottoms and reconvene.
Oh, I just made a turkey.
Look what I just found. And it was making too much noise next to my sewing room.
Sorry.
Oh, did you wake up?
I don't think so. No. But we ruined the video.
But you ruined the video.
Sorry.
So everybody, this is Lizzie. If you haven't, not in the video. This is Lizzie, and she's curtsying.
With my shirt.
Is this the one that you made?
I made this necklace.
In this very room. In this very room.
With Rachel and Audrey.
Yes. Yeah. And this is Audrey. She lives here. She's the resident noisemaker.
Troublemaker.
Keep everybody up all night
and all morning.
This is our happy interlude of people that I love.
Yay!
So welcome to my video.
Hi vlog.
Hi
Hi
vlog.
vlog.
All right. Okay, we are running out of daylight and battery power, but we are getting close. So I want to keep moving. Now, I left you with a little interlude from the girls, but before that, there was the clipping and the top stitching of the bottom, and that should all be pressed really nicely and laying flat. So what we need to do is have the outside of the bag, the canvas heavy one, inside out, and the inside bag right side out. And we're going to stick one inside the other, but we want to make sure the pockets are on opposite sides. So as I stick it in here, I've got one pocket I can kind of see in here, and one pocket on the other side. You just don't want the pockets to both be on one side. So it's very like crudely in here right now, but in a minute it's going to be great. Let's just start to make it great. Let's just line these guys up, and about 2 inches down from the top we can just start pinning it together. And we're going to stitch all the way down, starting from 2 inches all the way across to the 2 inches below on the other side. On one side we're going to do it the whole way, and on the other one we're going to leave a 5-inch gap so we can turn it right side out. So, you know, before we go much further, it might not be a bad idea to give ourselves a friendly little note. Just take seam gauge and a marking pen and just make 2 little marks so you'll see them as stop signs on one side. The other side you can stitch all the way, but go from one side to the other. We're going to pin, 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 pin on both sides, and then we'll stitch and we'll be all that much closer. Okay, we are all pinned and it's looking a lot neater now, and we're fixing to stitch, but I just kind of wanted to point something out about pinning really quickly. A while back I taught you guys to stick your pin in the needle, in the direction where you plan to start your stitching. And that's a great idea, but if you don't know for sure where you plan to stitch because you're doing a long stitch or like a big construction deal, another totally good option is to pin with your pin facing the rough edges, so that you can, sometimes I just leave them in and stitch across them, but sometimes my needle hits the pin and it makes a kerchunk and could even break your needle. So I don't recommend that, but they're easy to always pull out sideways, whereas if I had that needle in the wrong direction, it'd be really hard to take out. So let's go ahead and stitch, and I would say start on the side where we have to leave the 5-inch gap where we left notes for ourselves. Here's mine, and that way it's still fresh in our minds as we start stitching. Okay, and to double check before we actually make the stitch, I want the right sides together of the outside fabric and the inside fabric. So just before you do anything, you should see inside fabric, outside fabric, and then your canvas. And get your needle positioned with and start about 2 inches down. And just go ahead and stitch that whole length, except for remember to stop at your point and then back stitch for sure at both of those points. We're getting really close. We've got a couple of tricky things to do to finish it up, but we are on the finishing it up stage. So if you remember this little gap that we made right here, reach in between. Oh wow, I didn't leave very much space. I hope you left a lot of space. Reach in between those, the fabric, and disregard the canvas. Where is it? Here we go. Don't reach into your pocket. Okay, then I'm gonna grab my strap. I've got it. And I'm gonna pull it through.
Yeah, habibi, yeah, habibi. I've been waiting a long time, or just hoping I might find.
Okay, got everything turned inside out. I'm really glad that I top stitched my seams because they're staying right where they should. And now I can hold my straps up and stick this part down, back in, because that's the inside of my bag. Yes, this is a lot of work. There's gonna be more top stitching to make this all better. Okay. A couple of good. This is like serious. Okay. You may need to work your straps back out. So we'll do that next. And you guys have been great to stick with me through this. After this, we're going to stitch this little piece closed. Or at least that's what they recommend. But I have a different opinion, and I always do. And here's Oliver. Buddy, I need you to clear out. Do you mind?
Hey, why am I going that way in the camera?
You're not funny?
Look. Look.
Hey, bud.
Going back?
Can you obey me?
Yeah.
Thank you. He's a handsome little guest to have, isn't he? Alright. So they say to stitch, the pattern says to stitch that hole closed down here, but I plan to do some top stitching anyhow, and so I think we should just wait on that for just a minute. Alright, what I say to do is hold these up next to each other, and mine are a little bit uneven. I don't know, sometimes it just happens that way. Best intentions. You could press this out a little bit. I think that's what we should do. We'll press it out, and then we're going to hold these up and give them just a little trim across the top just to make sure they are the same length. And then right sides together, I'm going to do a stitch across with right sides together. I'm going to stitch these two inside straps together and then turn it around and do the same thing to the outside straps. And then give them a press, and then we're going to turn it in and just do a stitch all the way around the circle of each loop that goes over your shoulder. And in that step, we'll turn this little hole in and top stitch, and that top stitch will cover that too. So let's press right now, trim the tops of our straps so that they're even, and then we're going to pin them together and stitch them over at the machine.